I think he was the best for the time. I don't think that he's the best for the next time that we're about to enter into. I think his job is done.
In winter of 2014, StateCraft Incorporated, a company owned by Chude Jideonwo and Adebola Williams, won the brief to manage the PR side of the Muhammadu Buhari campaign ahead of the 2015 presidential contest.
You getting stuck as he feet in the mud. You have been caught in the flood.
Is the naira in your bank account of greater value today than it was 4 years ago? How can we allow the cowards of Boko Haram take over any part of this country?
They gave a retired General Buhari a complete makeover. They had Buhari draped in three-piece suits, photographed Buhari without his trademark cap, got him to smile and laugh a lot, and launched Buhari's social media accounts to dazzling effect.
We handed over just before Tolu took over as special assistant on new media, I think. Yes, I think that was that. So it was, anyway, it was to this new Presidential Office of Digital Engagement that we handled it. Because I think after the elections, they didn't have any, there were no structures yet. And so there was nobody to hand over. So we kept asking, we're ready to hand over, ready to hand over. Who do we hand over to? Who do we hand over to? And so once there was a professional who we could hand over to, we just moved on. The politicians were very shocked. They were very surprised because, we're a professional organization, like we're a world standard organization, if I dare say so. And so I didn't know, what did they think we were going to do? We're going to keep an account that wasn't ours. So people were like, it has never happened in politics where a person, even in, because when we took over the Buhari account, they were trying to retrieve his handles from people who had handled it in 2011. And of course, people who had handled it in 2011 didn't want to leave. This was real estate. Like, leave what? Like, who are you? Where are you coming from? And so I wasn't working on the campaign then because I didn't want to work on the campaign. I was tired. Because we had done a German wall where I was doing the Future Awards Africa and Adebola was doing the Buhari campaign. And so when Adebola said, look, Chude, you have to do this thing, you have to do this thing. And of course, there were personal issues. Part of the reason I didn't want to do it was because I had too many friends in Jonathan government. And I just thought it was one thing that my company was doing this and I didn't want to burn personal bridges. But then when I came into the meeting, I'm like, why are we begging them for this handle? Create new handles. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, this is Buhari. I did think about this thing very deeply. And that's how we got those handles. And so people thought that's what we were going to continue, that we were political players who were trying to protect our own real estate, We believed in him. We believed not just in him. When you say believe in him, not in him more than in what he represented. And the fact that he was the best chance for what I have called the democratic ideal and the people's aspiration, which is that we have the right every 4 years to make judgment about whoever we've elected to lead our affairs. And so in 2015, he was the best chance to reflect that popular will. And that's why I particularly supported him.
They sold candidate Buhari of the APC to a young, impressionable voting base and handed the ex-general a sleek tablet for the cameras.
My name is Muhammad Buhari. Vote APC, vote Muhammad Buhari.
It was a complete media operation with the young Nigerians at the helm.
The question you asked me is, how did we get him elected? But then the issue is that we didn't get him elected. Nigerians got him elected. Our job was to help, what is that, our job with candidates? The way democracy works is that in a free and fair election, the person who wins is often an expression of the popular aspiration, yeah? And so that means that people have decided that this is what they want to do. They're essentially looking for a candidate that expresses that willpower. So our job is to ensure that the candidate stands well, essentially, so that people are able to do that which they want to do already. And so the real power, nobody can manipulate the will of the people. I know that communicators across time, people so-called fathers of public relations, have always kind of tended towards speaking as if they have the power to manipulate minds. But a human being is a very difficult thing to very difficult entity to manipulate. It's easier to persuade than to convince. And that process means that the person has already opened up themselves to being persuaded or convinced.
It would be the first time young people would be managing a major presidential candidate in Nigeria.
In the past elections, the candidate had taken very unstrategic moves that distracted from the core of what he wanted to do or what he wanted to say. And in these new elections, the idea was, how can you ensure that his message goes directly? People hear what he has to say. There are no distractions. There's no video of him talking about baboons or dogs. There is just a focus on what does he want to do and what does he represent. And the idea was to ensure that his social platforms, his TV messaging, his radio messaging, his outdoor messaging was clear, was consistent, and was effective. And that's what we did to ensure that his messaging is clear and consistent without any distractions.
The Buhari makeover probably worked a treat because Buhari went on to win the 2015 presidential election, defeating incumbent Goodluck Jonathan of the People's Democratic Party.
President Buhari has been a major disappointment. And a young person asked me in Abuja, they said, well, why didn't you tell us clearly that more importantly than what he was going to do was what he represented, that he was to help us have a competitive democracy? And I said, well, we said so, but it's not, an article it's not as viral as a slogan. So you have the slogan and you communicate, and I communicated in articles I'd written, but people didn't see that understandably. So people had huge expectations for him. I didn't have huge expectations for him, but I had minimum expectations. Now, unfortunately, not only has he failed on those huge expectations, he has failed on the minimum expectations. So when a person fails so colossally, what do you expect people to do? They will look for the people who are responsible, who they think are responsible for bringing this person into office, and they will lash out at him. You see, I can have this so-called intellectual existential conversations about how nation building is an extended matter, yeah? But for a person who has lost his job or her job, talking about long-term nation building is rubbish. Now, it doesn't mean that I am less convinced about that, but it means that I can understand where that is coming from. Now, of course, I'm not naive that, like Premium Times wrote a year ago, that much of this criticism comes from people who didn't vote for Buhari, who are saying, we told you. It's almost like a dancing, a rejoicing that you had failed. But still, it doesn't still make me not sympathize with them, because this cynicism that permeates our country has come from this series of bad leaderships that we've had. So we don't trust anybody, we don't believe in anybody, we think anybody is up for sale. So that's why people would say to me that, this beginning of this year I was feeling charitable. I did an interview in December with Gatefield TV, and I said, look, I don't know, maybe I judged Buhari too harshly, and there was this opera that, had been paid to work for the Buhari campaign. And I'm like, first, before I left the leadership of Red had already been working for another candidate that we believed in from so long ago. So, not for StateCraft. So I'm like, how can anybody think that after the things I have said about this president, that I, Chude, would work for him? And I'm like, it's not about me. These people, some people have broken their hearts. Some people have lied and deceived them. And so when they look at you, they think that you are one of those people because they don't have any other framework with which to assess you. And so I have an empathy for that. I'm very understanding about that. When a broken person attacks you, if you are not a broken person yourself, then you have some kind of responsibility to respond to that person with the knowledge of how the person is. And I don't mean that Nigerians are broken. I mean that certain people are broken. This system has broken Nigerians. And so I completely empathize with, and he used to annoy me, but it's not about me. It's about our country, yeah? And so when these people are upset, I'm like, if Buhari had just done better, if he had done better, then these people could have had some hope that, we are on course. But now it's very difficult to make that case to them.
In this interview with Pulse, Chude explains why he dumped Buhari, why he considers Buhari a failure, and the kind of candidate StateCraft will be working with in the coming months.
I, Chude, cannot work for President Buhari. And this is the reason why. People have begun to... So, even though I had begun to criticize President Buhari, I did not state categorically what my assessment of his administration was until May 29, 2016. Now, of course, a person that publishes an article on Democracy Day, you know that he didn't just wake up that morning and write it. So I'd always said from the Jonathan administration, I think that any democracy needs at least 2 years before you can make a conclusion about that democracy or that administration in a 4-year. Half that's 50% gone. And so it was only as at 50% gone that I made a statement. And when I made that statement, it was a comprehensive assessment of the character and the potential of that government. And that meant that I was reasonably certain that this government had irrevocably lost its way. Yeah? It is impossible for I don't give nothing is impossible. There is a 95%, when a government has locked in like that, based on what we've seen in the past and what we've seen, any student of political science, any student of, I don't mean an actual student, just you pay attention to history, pay attention to political science, you pay attention to how society interacts with itself. There is no possibility, very little possibility that this government can change course. That's one. Secondly, if it changes course now, then it is doing that because there's an election year coming, and that doesn't deserve reward. Yeah. So, thirdly, I as Chude don't necessarily judge governments based on actions. I judge government based on character. And that's why I often say, you must remember that President Jonathan hosted one of our platforms, the Future Award in Aso Rock, in December 2014, graciously, and we're very grateful to him. And that was around the time when Sanusi began to talk about the other thing. And by the time the Chibok girls were missing, it was the way that they handled the Chibok girls missing that made me think that this government, this is a fundamentally perverted government. Now, once I have assessed the character and intention of a government, and I do not believe that it means well, I don't care if the economy explodes after that. And so with President Buhari, by May 2016, had made a decision that this wasn't, I didn't see goodwill, I didn't see good faith. And of course, even after that, the way that he has handled the headsman crisis with such a duplicity and a clannishness, I cannot imagine myself being associated with that. There's no amount of money in the world that I know that there's no amount of money that's enough for me to align myself with a thing that offends my spirit.
But Chude and his StateCraft are no longer in Buhari's corner ahead of another election battle in 2019.
2019 elections, Nigerians will not want for options. Nigerians will be excited about the options that we will have. Of course, nobody can announce yet until it's constitutionally allowed for people to make announcements. But all these wishes, again, remember that when we did this work in 2015, the idea was that we needed President Buhari and the APC to help us open the gates so people can come. And that prediction, I'm happy, has come to pass based on the conversations I had last year. Unless something happens to scare all these people away, we're going to have a very inspiring candidates in 2019. Does it mean that all these candidates, because people forget that Buhari is a deeply popular president. He might be deeply unpopular on Twitter, but in many parts of the north, north central, northeast, many parts of the southwest, outside of Lagos, and even many parts in Lagos, Buhari is still a very popular president. This election is his to lose if he chooses to run. So in making the decisions that I have made, I didn't make them because I was looking for who is likely to win. I made my decisions based on who do I think is the right person to answer the right questions that Nigerians have in their heart. And I don't look at nation building as a 4-year activity. Buhari ran 3 times before he won the 4th time. I look at nation building as a series of activities that happen in and out of 4 years. And so my decision to support a candidate personally, and whatever decision StateCraft decides to make, has made to work in these elections in 2019, are based on our vision of Nigeria in the long term. And for me personally, that vision no longer includes the presidency of Muhammadu Buhari.
Always stay connected and get free and personalized stories delivered directly to you. Download the new Pulse Buzz app for free now.
Hi, my name is Chude Jideonwo, founder of Joy Inc. you're watching Pulse TV.